Guys, you're listening to the Hawk Zone Rundown. We're coming at you live for this preview show with the Minnesota Vikings coming into Lewin Field to face the Seahawks. Minnesota's rolling, man. They are hot, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They're coming in here. We were coming off a very tough loss, and tough as I mean we just didn't play very well. The game was not close. Obviously, we broke that down a couple times after the game, and then we had Mookie Alexander on to break it down even further. So, that's in the past for us now. That's in the rearview mirror. So now we're going to look ahead to this game. So before we do that, guys, if you have been watching the channel and you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe to the channel, go down, hit the sub button for us. Share the videos, like the videos, and hit that notification button too, so you know what when future episodes are coming up, like this one when we're going live. And everybody that's been supporting, we appreciate it. So on the other side, we're going to break it all down for you.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
And it's run. What a run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a lead. Leo Washington. Smith and Jimbo. The Seahawks are going to hold the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does. Is it going to be another 9 and 8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offense.
Part of the success and part of the
ambition of being the LOB one again.
That's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the Hawk Zone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
This is the Hawk Zone, guys. We're coming at you live. Before we get going, flood the comments section in. We want to hear from you guys. Throw out a prediction, because that's what we do. We give you guys a prediction at the end of the show and say what we like and the score and all that. So we want to hear you guys too. So and anything else, throw them out there. Questions, comments, all of it. So Bryce, Minnesota coming into town, man. 12-2. That NFC North, man. That's tough sledding. We just played a team from the NFC North, the Packers, and really they put it on us early, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We just couldn't stop them for the first couple of drives. You put us in a hole early, like 14-zip, and we said that was one of our keys to that game. Like, get off to a good start. You got to get off to a quick start, and defense was one of the things where we felt like we could hang our hat on a bit, because we felt like obviously that's been the strongest for us as far as we know our troubles on offense right now. So okay, keep us in the game. We'll see what happens. It just didn't happen. We got a hole early, but we're playing a really tough team. Some people have this team. I mean, they're fighting for their division. I mean, this is a game that they're not just going to sit back and okay, we got a playoff spot. They're fighting for a division here in the NFC North and really a first overall seed. This is not going to be an easy game. So far, it looks like Geno Smith, by all indication, is going to play. He practiced, so that's good news, because we don't even want to think about right now Sam Howell. It's just going to be a tough game in general. But how are you breaking down this Vikings team? Sam Darnold is having a year, and good for him. Kind of cool to see, with all the troubles, first round pick and with the Jets, and just kind of written off, and now he's having a season there with the Vikings with Kevin O'Connell. But what's your assessment, man, with the Vikes, and what do the Seahawks got to look out for here?
This is going to be an interesting game. I'm obviously going to the game, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's kind of almost the same set of keys. We have to be able to control the Vikings offense, and in a way opposite of what we did against Green Bay. We need to be more prepared for their dynamic duo of Jefferson and Addison, and you can throw TJ Hawkinson in there as well. like they do have running backs, Aaron Jones is still a good running back in this league, but the way Kevin O'Connell, and I've watched a lot of film on what he does and how, because he's off that Rams tree and Sean McVay, they're so good off of play action and they stick with that run game to allow that play action to develop. And the biggest worry I have in this game for Seattle is Reek Woolen, honestly, because Reek is a great man press corner, but he is awful in zone. And Seattle only plays about 19% of man press. And so the rest of our defensive scheming and the way Mike McDonald does it is he likes to use that simulated pressure and play zone in behind it. The problem is Darnold and Addison are probably the best quarterback receiver duo in the league right now. And I'm not missing the term here. It's Addison, not Jefferson. And they shred teams. And Darnold's been doing it all year. And I look at Sam Darnold, for example, and I look very similar to how Geno was. He went through, obviously being a New York Jet. He then went and bounced around as a backup. And he's now found himself with a coach that knows how to, get the most out of his skill set. And Sam Darnold was a top 10 pick. It's not like he was, a third, fourth, fifth round guy. Like this guy was evaluated very highly coming into his draft year. And you're seeing it now. And he's got weapons around him and he's able to make throws. So if Seattle wants to have a shot in this game, the best thing is to keep that Vikings offense off the field.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan Addison putting up big yards this season. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's the main guy, and he's having another really, really good year. Reek Woolen's going to be a big key when we get into keys. I mean, he might be up in there, that secondary in general, but, coming off probably his worst game of his career, like just with all the things that were happening to him. Like we said, man, this is a guy that's supposed to be a strong suit. He's supposed to be that cover corner, elite speed, but it seemed like he was asleep half the time and not even into the game. And that's the concerning part with Reek. Mike McDonald in his presser he got asked about Reek a couple times, and it just. Yeah, he kind of said, when this guy's on, he's on, and when he's not, he's not, and that's concerning. And so to me, I look at Reek and I say he has to have a big turnaround this Sunday. Like if they go at him and he kind of does similar stuff, then it could start being evident that this just isn't going to be a fit for Mike moving forward. But besides that, just focusing on Sunday. The way they're going to target the zone and stuff like that, man, they might try to pick over there on that side. It's going to be interesting to see, but I expect this defense definitely to be a lot more prepared. I mean, not that they weren't prepared coming into the game, but man, when it was kickoff, it just felt like they weren't ready to go. So I feel like there's definitely going to be a different approach. Because again, like you said, it's going to be similar. Like you got to get off to the good start. You can't fall behind, because it's going to be tough. And yeah, Sam's looking great. He's a guy I know Rob Staten's been talking about, obviously moving forward in the future as well, that this could be a guy the Seahawks target. So it'd be interesting to see, how he plays in our house because, and obviously, a first round pick, but when Sam Howell came in last year for us up, obviously got the attention of John Schneider, right? But yeah, man. So that's going to be a huge thing, just getting off to that start defensively, I think.
Well, and here's the thing. So here's just a couple kind of stats about Minnesota. So like Minnesota averages 3.9 passing plays per game that are 20 yards or more. That's the most in the NFL.
Yeah,
those are explosive plays. They're averaging almost 4 explosive passing plays. It's not including run. That's just passing in a game. So we talk about Reek Woolen, we talk about, this defense. They're going to have a tough time dealing with it. And we look at what Green Bay was. Green Bay had good receivers. They weren't great, Dobbs, Watson, Reed. But now you're elevating 2 of those guys to 2 of the top guys in the league in Addison and Jefferson and adding, in my opinion, a better tight end in TJ Hawkinson. It's going to make things more challenging for the Seattle defense. And if they can run the ball even enough to create proper play action for Sam Darnold, if he's sitting back there and he has time to go through his reads, Seattle's going to be in trouble. Seattle has to somehow create pressure this week. Last week they weren't able to do that at all. and just, we're talking about fast starts on the Seahawks side. The Seahawks have scored a touchdown on 16.3% of their drives at home.
Right.
They're only ahead of the Browns, Cowboys, and Giants. That's horrible. We talk about fast starts. Like, that's what Seattle has to do. They have to be able to, create explosive plays on offense. If they're going to have any way of doing exactly what we're saying here, which is slow down Darnold and his dynamic duo, they're going to have to be on the field. They can't just, 3 and out and punt and put the defense back out there. The defense is going to get gassed. And, that's the biggest concern I have right now, is that can, the Seattle offense sustain enough drives, especially early on in the game, to keep it close enough to give themselves a shot in the second half when they usually, Mike McDonald and crew make better halftime adjustments.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked obviously a lot about the offense with Mookie, and it's been an ongoing conversation, but what do you think Ryan Grubb has to do? I mean, we talk about running the ball, and Minnesota has their defense is good this year, right? But you look at what when Sharps had the game a couple weeks ago, that was our most complete game. That was our most complete game, and we both felt that they were having as minimal carries that he has. They were having success, really every time Sharps touched the football last week, and they just didn't go with it. I mean, I don't know. You look at Zach and Ken, and you look at their numbers. Like Charbonnet is averaging more yards per carry. We like his style of running. I know we've been critical of him. He just feels like, to me, the back to go to a lot more right now. And I know Ken's had some health issues, but I just really feel like, man, they have to run the football. Like, I just want to see a consistent amount of carries, whether we get, whether it's just for short gains or whatnot. But I just want to see just getting back to certain basics here. Because I just, like you said, if we get in these third and long situations because we're sitting back and being pass happy and shotgun again, I just think you're in for a long, long day. I really do. I'm just looking to see what Grubb comes out and does, really, to kick this game off in the first, right off the hop, right in the first series. What are you going to do? How are you setting the tone on the offense?
Well, and here's another, I've done so much research on this offense this last week and Grubb and stuff. And so, since week 9, so you think about week 9 was roughly around that bye time that we had. Seattle on set of downs have reached third down 53% of the time on their set of downs. That's 30th in the league. That means whenever we get the ball, we are almost guaranteed half of the time to end up on third down, which means we're not converting on second down or, first down or anything. We're not getting explosive plays. Before week 9, we were only at 39%, and that had us at 4th in the league. So prior to week 9, we were fine. We weren't really getting to third down much. We were getting, explosive plays and moving the ball and sustaining things. And it's like all of a sudden, week 9 hit, and everyone in the NFL either figured out what we were doing, which there's a possibility. We've talked about the predictability of Ryan Grubb's offense, and now you're seeing how NFL teams have adjusted defensively to Seattle, that they're pushing Seattle to third down on 53% of their set of downs. You can't win football games that way. It's extremely difficult if you're always, like you said, in third down, third and long, and especially when you're 3rd and 2 and you can't come up with a quick game to get anybody open.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that's what I want to see. Corey in the chat saying, the Vikes defense has been bad the last 3 games. Yeah, they haven't been great the last few, but I just don't have the confidence right now. I just don't know what Grubb's game plan is going to be. That's the thing. So I think you're going to see really what it is coming out. I mean, I'd be surprised again if he doesn't run the ball early, but I mean, like we saw last week, or like we saw when Sam came in the game, another situation where, it was early enough in the game where, take some pressure off your emergency guy coming into the game, backup quarterback, but in an emergency spot. And again, you just got him trying to sit back and throw around the field. So I just really don't know what to expect from him. But I mean, like I said, when we go back to that Arizona game, just the way Sharps ran the ball and just how we really felt like that was their most complete game of the season, right? Just overall. And it's no secret, right? So because I want to see them start unleashing DK, and I want to see him unleashing, the rest of that passing game. But I mean, it's just, man, this defense just not going to allow it when they know, hey, you're going to run the ball for, you're going to give Sharps 8 carries during the game. So I got to see more balance. If not, then I'm really worried about this offense, and I'm just, like I said before, I'm just hoping this defense just, gets off to the start that we need them to, not like last week. So that's going to be, it's really going to come down to how does Grubb, want a game plan this thing. But, like we talked about before, you got 3 games left. I don't think there's going to be a ton of changes, but, we'll see.
It'll be interesting. So it kind of plays into, like how will the Hawks handle this Vikings defense? The Vikings defense has been, they haven't been great over their last, 3 games here, last few weeks. So they played, they've played Chicago, they played Atlanta, and they played the Cardinals, which they barely snuck by the Cardinals 23-22. They were in a bit of a game with Atlanta, and then they pulled away. And then obviously Chicago's just kind of the dumpster fire that Chicago is. And they won 30-12. But the biggest key for Seattle in this game is with Brian Flores' defense, and DK kind of alluded to, it was interesting in DK's press conference this week, because I think it was Brady Henderson asked him and was like, hey, how are you guys going to handle the blitz? The Vikings blitz so often, and DK kind of shut him down and was like, well, no, they actually simulate their blitzes. They don't actually blitz. They may bring a linebacker, but they're dropping somebody else off the D-line into coverage. And DK basically mentioned how the receivers this week have to be smarter about where they're sitting down in their routes and understand what they're, what this rotation on the back end of the Vikings defense will look like. The biggest thing too for Seattle, and it drives me nuts. Seattle's been a decent or above average offense between the 20s. Like, we haven't been horrible. It's once we get in that red zone, it's like all of a sudden either the concepts that we have offensively don't work because their spacing's atrocious. Like, I've gone back and watched Geno's interception because we were all so critical of Geno's interception there. And there were a couple things in this last game that, for me, really came home about that interception, which was he threw the ball into an area that theoretically Noah Fant is open on that concept, like the corner route, because Noah's the third guy and he actually had it. And Geno alluded like, oh, I shouldn't, I have to throw a better ball. It was cover 0. The problem with it being cover 0, because they were doubling over top of DK on the other side singly, is they didn't run anybody inside from that 3 receiver set. And you ran Tyler Lockett on an out in cover 0 deep enough that the corner could pull off and go to Noah Fant. You're also throwing that from the right hash to the left back corner of the end zone. And the entire left side of the O-line cave. Now, I'm not making an excuse saying, oh, well, that's the reason, Geno still is in control of the ball and still has to make that decision. But Charbonnet had a horrible block and pass, bro. He didn't stick up there and actually hit. He caught the defender and the entire side. And Geno's backing away. He doesn't get enough on it. Ball ends up being picked. But that also goes right back. We rewind that to the top. It's the play call. It's the understanding of where you are on the field, the concept you're running. You watch Green Bay play the coverage. If JSN, who I think was the most outside receiver in that 3 receiver set, if he runs a slant, he's wide open. There's no one there. The linebackers have all bailed out. There's nobody in the middle of the field. But it's that where I get concerned with Ryan Grubb is, how are you not scheming up red zone efficient plays inside the 20 to give your team a chance, give Geno a chance? Because, looking at Geno's production, so just, here's a stat. In 2021, this is red zone versus outside. He had a total of 5 TDs and interceptions. He had 1. 2 outside the red zone, like for touchdowns we're talking about, 2-1. Inside 3-0. He was really good. He was super efficient in the red zone. 2022, 30-1, right? So this was his first year starting. He went 30-1. He had 13 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions outside the red zone. He was 17-0 inside the red zone. And this is with Shane Waldron, who we've all had our, issues with. 2023, he was 20-9 because he sat out a couple of games. Outside the red zone, 4-7. Inside, 16-2. This year, he's 14-3 across. Now we know that number's changed. He's 6-9 outside, 8-4 inside. 8-5 now we can go to. But that is such a drastic change in red zone efficiency that you cannot turn around and just say it's solely on Geno. Part of that is 100% going to be on your scheme too, not just your quarterback's play. And I think Ryan Grubb, like you've said, man, and like we kind of beat it to death last week, there has to be some change. And part of that is run the damn ball. If someone has to wear a t-shirt on the sideline and come up and flash a giant sign or t-shirt at Ryan Grubb when he's sitting up in the booth, run the damn football. Give it to Charbonnet, McIntosh, any of these guys. But it drives me nuts. We're inside the red zone and we don't run one run play. Like, that is one of the things even Mike McDonald has said that is the hardest thing to stop of an offense is running the ball inside the 20. Like, it's hard. It's not easy. So do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned how teams like Minnesota run it consistently, right? Teams like Green Bay, run it consistently. I mean, you could talk about the O-line, and we all know we've beat that to death. And yes, that will be addressed in the offseason. But again, you can't always use the excuse. You just brought up the schemes. You went back and watched the All-22, and a lot of it is the play calling. And yes, having a bad offensive line doesn't help, getting I mean, they're one of the worst with pressure rate and time for him to throw the football and all that. But then that. So come up with something different. Run the football, man. That it's as simple as that. I mean, if anything else, you have if you're this high on your backs too, if you say we got our guys, we're thinking of extending Ken Walker, giving him a good contract, as far as the running back market's concerned. And this guy Charbonnet obviously shown that, especially the last couple of weeks, that he's an efficient back, especially if he's going to just be that second fiddle or whatever, thunder and lightning, whatever you want to call it, that you feel like, okay, we got a couple of guys. And by the way, Kenny Mack can come in and do a few things here and there as well. So I mean, that's the thing. You just don't have an excuse to give Charbonnet 8 carries last week. And especially, like I said, after coming off a game that he had, it makes zero sense. And like Mookie said, that's cool. That's cool if you can just pass it all around and you're this is like the let Russ cook first half of when Shoddy was here. But it's none of that. It's none of that, right? It's because we're so ineffective at running the football. We don't have like Eddie Lacy back there. We're not in between running backs right now. We feel like we have our guys. And that's a frustrating thing. Like you said, that some of the schemes that Ryan Grubb's cooking up in the addition of not run the football consistently it's concerning and frustrating at the same time. And like we said, man, even the 4-game win streak, this offense hasn't been good. This defense was just killing it against teams that, we should be competitive and beating. And, to the defense's credit, they really shut those teams down. But then when we played a superior football team, and we get off to a little slow start with that defense, man, we are in trouble. We are in trouble. 14-0 feels like, 24-0, right? Just the way our offense is so inefficient. So again, we'll get into some keys here, but quick start is on the top of my list. And I just mean quick start as a team, like prepared and ready to go, and not let Minnesota run it down the gut, right off the bat, because if that happens, it could be similar to last week.
Here's the last thing I'll say on Grubb, and this is something I watched Brian Nimhauser's show that he does with Taylor or Robert Mays from The Athletic, and it was something for myself as a coach as well that I thought about after I heard him say it. He said, everyone wants to talk about how you scheme guys open and everything, right? Like in all these plays and stuff that you got designed and so on. He goes, that's more about players beating players than it really is about your scheme. He goes, when I look at a coach and I want to know how good a coach is and how good a coach really is at scheming, you look at the screen game, because it's all about the timing that you call a screen, right? You have to get a defense in a certain look at a certain time and execute a screen perfectly. And that is more on coaching and understanding what you've been looking at on film, the tendencies of the other team. And what the issue for me is now, all of our screens go to one dude. They all go to JSN, whether it's a short slot screen or him coming underneath. And like even his screen that he got that went for like, I think it was 3 yards or that in that red zone sequence, You lined him up in the backfield, and he does the same thing. He goes like he's running a flat route, plants, and comes back underneath the tackle and guard on the side he's on. No one's getting fooled by that anymore. There's no screens to DK. There's no screens to, the backs, really, Ken Walker or any of these guys. And it's super frustrating because it's like, that's how I'm going to judge an offensive coordinator is if you can't properly get the screen game called out and read what the other team is doing as an offensive coordinator, that to me is going to drive me nuts over and over and over again because it's such a simple thing in a way, but it requires you to design and properly execute something that is so detail oriented. And that's where I find the details lack in Ryan Grubb's offense. It's great that he can scheme guys up 20, 30 yards down the field, but you don't have the offensive line for it. Like when we get to our questions and comments in there, everyone's saying the same thing. Our offensive line is horrible. Well, then as an offensive coordinator, you have to adjust and get, okay, cool. Right. We don't have the protection to hold up for a 7-step drop. I need to be running a 3-step drop and getting the ball out. I need to create more rub routes and stuff that's going to create things. When we're 3rd and 4 and we're running a 12-yard intermediate route, there's no use in that. You're not going to get that guy open because the defense is sitting at 4 already. You need to find a way to create underneath and get space. It's just, it drives me nuts, man.
I know.
And that's
and we've been talking about it.
So I'm hoping this weekend's different.
Yeah. And like you said, you and I could sit here and talk, Rob. It's just, and we won't beat it to death because we already did. But it's kind of like low expectations now and just kind of we'll see. We'll sit back and see what he brings us. Real quick before we get to keys, let's talk about the injury report for the Hawks, man. Looking through Thursday's practices, Kenneth Walker, full participant, right? So that's good, making his way back in there. Olu limited.
Sounds like Olu will be good to go.
It sounds like he'll be good to go. Leonard Williams didn't practice, and you heard anything more on that?
Leonard Williams, it just sounds like it's rest. That's all I've heard and messaged and heard from people is it's rest. Like he's got the foot issue, but that's been ongoing.
Yeah.
Abe Lucas
a rest kind of deal.
Hankins is rest.
Yeah.
Gibson, I don't expect him to play. Like he's been out now, I think. He was limited on Wednesday. He's out on Thursday. Trey Brown's coming back. It looks like his hamstring, but
right.
Like I look at it all. Like I think Kayvon Wallace could get activated potentially. Like he's a full participant again for the second day.
Right.
So that comes and adds a guy to special teams and such. The big thing for me is Gino isn't wearing a brace. That's a big thing.
Yeah, it's big.
And K9's potentially going to come back, and that could really help us. So.
And the Gino thing was interesting too, because when it happened, I think we all got scared. But he did walk off on his own power. He did walk off to the locker room, and then he walked back to the sidelines. You know what I mean? There was no cart. So that gave me not that he maybe could have sat a week, but I didn't think it was going to be a serious thing. But I mean, good news that it sounds like he's going to be ready to go.
Well, and the thing was, I watched it back, and this is what I think happened. I don't know if they'll ever say it, but this is what it looked like to me, at least, because everyone thought it was Achilles or whatever. If you watch his heel on his right leg, it gets stuck, and he jams his knee. His whole knee compresses over top of his shin bone, essentially, and it looks like it just jolts hard. So I think what he did is he jammed his knee really, really badly. Right. To the point where, because you could see him flexing it out and trying to move it. So you knew when they said there was nothing structurally wrong and there's no broken bones, that I think he just jammed it and possibly has a really bad bone bruise of that connecting activity that occurred.
Right.
But the fact that he's not wearing a knee brace is a really good sign. It means his mobility, he's getting better every day.
Yep.
But the thing is if you want to save Gino, let Gino move. Like, stop having him stand in the damn pocket.
Something we talked about. Like, the guy can get out and move.
Let him move.
Get that in the repertoire, right? Things that we were like, hey man, you have certain things at your disposal. Like maybe you just caught up in the stigma, like Geno Smith is just, he can't move. But we've seen him, and there's been some design runs, but like, just do it more. I feel like this, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he can get out, and he can get out when he gets moving. He gets turning. So I want to see that. But yeah, and then listen to Gino's press conference too. He talked about when he injured his knee, back in the day, and So it was just more precautionary thing. Do you go back in? Do you not? So it was the right move, I think. You were down a couple of scores. Would have been really. I mean, it's not like they were lighting it up with Geno in there. So it's one of those things. Just you're not going back in as much as this is a big game. It was. I think they
It was
knew
out of reach at that point. I think it was if we had somehow mustered something after Charbonnet's touchdown and gotten
maybe
within
he comes
3,
back. Yeah,
maybe he comes back in, but it wasn't happening once it became 30. So let's actually get into a few of these questions. We got some of them piling up here, Ryan. We'll get into a few of the comments. So, Nate's back in. Go Hawks. I'm beyond excited for the game this week. Yeah, it should be a good one. Obviously, Corey's been in the chat. What's up, Corey?
Corey.
This is what Corey's got to say. He goes, this is a chance for redemption. I think it might be a trap game for Minnesota off a short week for them. They play Green Bay and Detroit after Seattle. Yeah, it could be. It could be an interesting situation for Detroit. They are off that short week with Chicago and having to travel out here but this is where we talk about starting fast. Like that's where on these type of games, you got teams coming out from the East, or the Midwest, or whatever you want to call it with Minnesota, or the Mid-Central, I don't know what it is. This is where you have to jump on them early. You have to get on this team early. You have to get up 10 points before they can really get into the game, and that's going to be on Grubb on this offense this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it could be a trap game. I mean, especially the teams they have. But I also think Kevin O'Connell has got to be up for Coach of the Year.
100%.
And so I just think the way he's got this team prepped and rolling in their win streak, and I just think he's going to have that message where you just don't look past this team. And I think they think, hey, this is a tough team and a tough place to play, even though we know how many times we talked about it, man. Being up here is a gift and a curse sometimes because people don't really, focus in on the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of like, people still think about, like the Legion of Boom still here. It's a different era right now. Obviously, we've talked about there is no home field advantage. So I think some of those guys still think it might be like that. So yeah, I think he's really going to have this team, ready to go. So I agree. You just got to get off to that quick start.
100%. Rathbird in here. I'd rather Geno next year than Sam. Corey kind of follows it up. Darnold is fool's gold to me. I think Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson help a QB a lot, plus their defense.
Yeah,
I'd rather.
I mean, I think with the quarterback situation, I just think if you were like, let's just take a shot if you got him at a certain price point and he's a lot younger, I think that's a big thing because Geno really he's getting up there in age, and I don't buy the fact like, well, he didn't play much. I mean, age is age, right? I mean, you get to a certain point, he's not like he's going to be 40 and being like, well, I didn't play for 10 years, so now I'm like a 30-year-old. It just doesn't work like that. So I think Darnold is just intriguing a big part because of age. And yeah, Justin Jefferson is one of the best in the league. But we have good receivers too, and that's the thing. We don't have scrubs. And it like he mentioned, the key word is Kevin O'Connell, and Mike McDonald is I think going to be a great head coach. But we've talked about it enough. That it might not be too much different until we switch, a couple things around there. So
for sure. So Corey, I would rather bring back Geno and definitely invest in the O-line for next season. The only caveat I'll throw out here to everybody, and this isn't me saying get rid of Geno, so don't take it that way. I would love to see Geno back, and I think there's a good chance Geno is back. If you were to move on from Geno, or if you were to bring him back, are you giving him that extension of $45 million potentially, because that's what he may want? And that's going to make it hard to potentially, in some respects, invest in that O-line unless you're doing it through the draft, which now you're playing that lotto role of hopefully the guy falls to us. If you go with a guy like Sam, potentially.
Be interested to see what that market's like. Be interested to see what that market's like.
It's going to be interesting to see what Sam Darnold's market is because I think there's going to be a decent market for him. But if you do that, there's a chance where you save some money that you then can turn around and invest. And you've now kind of reset your quarterback room with a guy that's 28. And you then potentially now allowed yourself to kick the can. Because that's the one thing. Geno, if you extend him for 2 years, which I think is what's going to happen, and I'm okay with that, is you then potentially have a 37-year-old quarterback. And if his floor potentially is 9-8 every year, that really makes it hard to get up in the draft if you want to get a young signal caller.
That's the only thing. If you're a Seahawks fan, you got to say, it's fine to say, well, I'd rather roll with Geno than Sam, but I mean, where are you going? And I think you really have to ask those questions as a Hawks fan. Where are you gonna go with Geno Smith? If this defense becomes lights out next season and becomes a top 5 defense under Mike McDonald, do we get that much better if Geno still say the O-line improves a little bit, or if John goes out? And I mean, we all think this is going to has to be a huge focus for John this year.
Oh,
Whether you do a
his
combo,
job, I think, rides
it
on it this
depends.
year.
You do a bit of a combination, which I could see, where you go in the draft, but you also, and I think you and I have talked about a lot, where you get that veteran just under that Pro Bowl level player. If you can get someone along those lines in one of those guard spots, at least the one side. And you're not gonna. If people think we're just gonna drastically make this thing great, it just won't happen. It doesn't work like that. So I think, but if you make it a focus and you add to it and improve it, that's all you can ask for. But I don't know. I just, it comes down to some of the decision makings with Geno and where his limitations are as far as really taking it to the next step. So, maybe you just are a 9-8, maybe a 10-win team with him. Even if some other things do change. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where, maybe John doesn't extend him. And I agree with you. I think I'm leaning more towards extension, but he could also cut ties and say, I'm going to kick the can down, and here's a guy like say Sam. And that doesn't mean, I don't think we're going to sign him and become, 13-2. And that's not the expectations, but like you said, he's 27, going to be 28, more prime of his career. That can be intriguing. And then you kind of see what happens from there. And you still got this, young defense coming up, and you're going to prove that as well. So, it's not us hating on Geno. I think he's done a great job here, but you're middling. I mean, we're a middling team, and he's part of that. There's no question.
So we got one in here from Lucas Gonzalez, Skol Vikings. I know the Gonzalez family, and they're diehard Vikings fans, and I will actually be attending the game with them this Sunday. So,
oh no,
welcome to the chat, Lucas. Hopefully, you don't get eaten alive in here by the Seahawk fans.
Bring up one Corey about Sundell, because that's an issue.
That's a good one.
I honestly tend to agree with Corey, because like you and I thought he played great. Now we've seen Jarrell have his first game really good, LaMea his first game really good. So Sundell could come in and have a clunker, but he did he was just doing a lot of things right, especially coming in that center spot. And I think Olu is one of those guys where, like, yeah, he could be okay, but I feel like he's nothing to get excited about. And I think at this point you're kind of looking at Sundell like, let's see how high that ceiling might be with him.
I think you have to. I kind of like Sundell. He, on Charbonnet's run,
he got out
in front of the block. If Olu's not 100%, I'm okay with Sundell playing. I wonder how many reps he's gotten with the first team this week, but it could be an interesting one. But let's get into our.
You want to get us some key matchups?
Yeah, let's go into our keys. Let's go into our keys to the game. That's
okay. Let's go keys to the game, man. Why don't you kick off one of your keys?
Okay, keys to the game for me is creating pressure on Sam Darnold. Last week, we didn't get anything on Jordan Love outside of Reek's lovely 15-yard penalty where he gave him the shot in the back, which I wasn't actually too mad about in hindsight. He doesn't A, blitz that often, and B, it wasn't an intent to injure hit, but it might have sent a message. But they really have to get after Sam Darnold. Like, you have to make him uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're going to have issues all day because Jefferson and Addison will eat you alive in the zone coverages. So my biggest thing is I think Seattle needs to come out of this game with at least 3 sacks of Sam Darnold to have a shot.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that was one of our keys, and the fact that they didn't get home on Love at all, and that was the thing. And because Love, you threw the stat out there where Love does okay under pressure, so you needed to get home on him, which didn't happen. We talk about Chenna how he was back and taking reps away from Hall, and we weren't overly impressed. I want to see more out of him. I want to see more out of him. That's going to be key, keys as far as, just piggybacking off your key, Chenna being a big part of that. And because if you're going to take reps away from Hall, we've seen Hall become a bit of a game wrecker. Not ultra dominant, but bit of a disturbing QBs and leading to interceptions and turnovers. So I expect Chenna to, or I don't know if he will, but I want to see more from Chenna. And so one of my keys, we talked about it, man, on the offensive side of the ball. Get the run game going and stick with the run game, because I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, my key is get the run game going and just get it going. I mean, it might not happen, but stick with it. Like my key is like, don't just go away from it too early. Yes, if we're late in the second half or, coming in the fourth down a couple scores, sure. But stick with a consistent run game plan and then use those boys, in some of the passing game. You get a little dynamic with Ken and Sharp. They are dynamic, especially Ken if he's back. But I want to see them first and foremost run the football.
So actually, Mookie Alexander chimed in our chat. Mookie, how's it going? And he actually took my second key to this game. They have to stop early down run success. They didn't force enough negative plays in the Packers game beyond just the 0 sacks. That was going to be my next thing. You cannot let Aaron Jones get going in this game, because that is going to set up the play action, which then is going to allow Darnold to dice you up down the field. If we can create some 0 negative plays, like if we can get off the field right off the bat on their first drive and push them to 3 and out and punt the ball, and
it's huge.
It allows you to get yourself into the game, and that's going to be something that I think Seattle has to do. They have to, like Mookie said, you have to stop the early down success on the run game for sure.
Yeah, and then you know what, man, if I'm sticking to the offensive side, my other key again is just Gino, no question, has to have a clean football game. He just has to have a clean football game. I just want to see the decision making, and again, we can say, well, you broke down and you obviously watched the all-22 and you looked at that play in particular with the interception, and you got to put some of that on the play call, on the scheme, but he's thrown a lot of interceptions this year, a lot of red zone interceptions, and we're so late in the year, and we keep saying it has to stop. But if you can have any chance of competing with this team right now, it's got to be clean, and he can't do that. I just want to see him. You know what? If it's not there, just stop trying to thread the needle and just throw it out of bounds. Just chuck it out of bounds, and just try to. And I know it's hard. He's got that gunslinger mentality, and it's a part of him. And that's, like you said, the lack of offensive line and the inexperience of a play caller, and then the gunslinger. It's not the best recipe, and it's going to lead to what now has quite a few picks and red zone picks. But I mean, maybe a switch can turn on to say, hey man, live to see another day. It's not right there. We've seen it too many times where he's kind of, sometimes even rolling out, and you think, the play's kind of broken, and I think one of them was against San Francisco, and he threw that horrible pick. But when you're watching on TV, you're thinking a guy's got to be wide open, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is he doing? So yeah, I want to see a clean game, run like basics, man. Run the football consistently, and play clean. Make right decisions. Those are probably the two biggest keys in offense.
The one thing I'll say, and this isn't like, I feel like I kind of have to say it to defend Gino to an extent. And I agree with what you're saying, Ryan, in 100%. But the big thing for me is if he didn't feel like he had to be Superman. That's the biggest issue. I think that's where, when you say gunslinger, he feels like if they don't score touchdowns, they're out of the game as it is. So I have to thread that needle. I have to try and do that. That's why I think, for me with Gino, and I've come more and more around to this throughout the year, is I agree. You can't make those, and he has to probably have it in his mind a little bit like, hey, I can't be Superman because that puts us in a worse spot if I don't get this right. But he's been put in those situations because of John Schneider, Ryan Grubb, this abysmal offensive line and lack of a running game. You've literally said, okay, Gino, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, we're screwed anyways. We might as well have Sam Howell out there. And by the way, watching that all 22 back changed my perspective a little bit on Sam Howell and just how bad that was. It was abysmal. Like it was I had some of my young quarterbacks that wouldn't have thrown that interception because they would have identified it was cover 2 and that linebacker just dropped into the zone. Like it was horrible. But my last takeaway from this game, and I think, is the biggest thing I want to see for key to the game. Get under center. Do some variations on your offensive sets. Don't be so predictable and those things. Throw some different things at the Vikings. You have nothing to lose. If you win this game, you set yourselves up better for the last 2 games of the regular season. If you lose it, you still have a chance because you only are, if the, comes down to week 18 potentially, but they've just got to be better with not being as predictable on offense. And, I'm not so worried about the defense. I'm more worried about the offense because I think if the offense has a good game, it'll help our defense.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think, like you said, the under center thing is just, it's just not being as predictable kind of thing, right? We just want to see it. And like you said, I agree with the Superman thing because we sort of saw it in Arizona where he played the clean game because the run game, all of a sudden he's like, wow, I actually have a bit of a run game I can sit back and rely on. And the other thing was it was just exciting to see. It was exciting to watch Sharps run like that. I not only is it important and effective, it's also fun to watch, man. So it's just, I mean, man, I'm so intrigued and I'm just curious to see what Grubb does. I just, because it was so bad last week, I just, you're gonna kind of see maybe on Sunday what might have been talked about if he completely comes out and does something different. But I'm interested to see that, man. Real quick, we'll get into some game changers, but just give me one key matchup you're looking forward to the most in this game.
Key matchup for me. Ooh, this is good. I'm gonna say I want to see my matchup's actually not players.
Right.
It's Ryan Grubb versus Brian Flores.
Nice. Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want to see if Ryan Grubb can not obviously ace and blow out Brian Flores, but have counter punches to what Brian Flores is going to throw at you. Brian Flores is probably going to be a head coach after this year. He's done a phenomenal job there in Minnesota with that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go 4 quarters with this guy and have a counter punch here and there that's going to surprise him enough that could change the game? Football comes down to 4 plays in the game. That's usually what it is. It's 4 plays that are momentum shifting plays. And if you own the majority of those football plays, you're going to win the game. Can we get 2 or 3 of those plays in our favor?
Yeah. How dominant though, really, does this defense have to be to get a win? I mean, as far as just, you mentioned Brian Flores in that matchup, he's doing a phenomenal job right now. The way the lack of our offense and ability to do anything right now is definitely concerning. I mean, I look at it in reality to say, what are my expectations against really this defense? And I know they struggle a little bit in the run defense, like not as dominant, but I don't like that matchup. If you're talking about, their guy against our guy, I don't like it. So, I mean, in reality, how dominant does this defense really have to be for us?
Oh, I'd say this defense has to play probably as close to they did versus Arizona in game 2 to give us a shot to win this game. Like realistically, or even the Jets game. I know the Jets game's an odd one, but that was more special teams than it was our defense. Like our defense played very well in that game.
Yeah, they
It
do.
has to be something like that for them to get a shot. And I'm just going to throw this in here quickly from Mookie.
Yeah.
He's really concerned that Minnesota runs zone D at the highest rate in the NFL, and the Seahawks seem much more suited playing against man coverage. Yeah, he's right. Based on how Ryan Grubb deploys his receivers, and this was something too that ties into this a little bit before we get to the game changers, is Ryan Grubb said, and this is from Greg Bell, says Monday was the first time after a Seahawks game this season that it, quote unquote, bothered me he didn't get DK the ball more than 3 catches on 3 targets for 28 yards. He talked to DK about it. A guy like that, I got to find ways to get him the football. How is that the first time you're realizing you haven't got that dude involved enough in the offense? Like, don't get me wrong. I love what he's done with JSN.
Yeah, but we said like you can't just tunnel vision one guy.
Exactly. And that's the problem. It feels like is like there's been such an emphasis to unlock JSN. Well, you've done that, but even the same part, like you've completely neglected DK. And I think DK is still a bit injured from his knee, whatever situation that occurred. But you can still move that guy around. Like that was the one thing I was so excited in the preseason and at the spring game.
Talked about, man.
He was moving DK all over the place and creating and it's like DK all of a sudden has gone back to being okay. He's going to jog out and play wide out. Like he's not moving him around. Like
why is that? Why? What? I mean, we can go on a tangent on Grubb, but just specifically that. Why do you think that changed? Is this because again he just was like, I need to unlock JSN. I'll just put DK over here, and now I'll start moving JSN around and get him across, doing stuff across the middle, and making DK more of that decoy. And I mean, because it's really hard to figure out.
I think this is where, again, I've talked with Mookie. We've had Mookie on the show. I've talked with it with Griff. I've talked with it with a bunch of different people. Dan. I think the problem has become is because of how Ryan Grubb was able to use spacing in college with the hashes.
Yeah.
It allowed him to create really odd situations when he would isolate Rome Odunze because, and people didn't watch the Huskies a lot. What him and DeBoer would do is they would put Rome on his own out on the outside, but he stretched it out so far that if a safety couldn't really come all the way over top to bracket him because he'd leave such a space in the middle. In the NFL, because your hashes are tighter, your safety brackets, but he doesn't have to get right over top. He can kind of split the difference. And Grubb hasn't adjusted to getting DK open in those situations when, like on the interception, he is being bracketed by a safety over top. Okay, well, you need to come up with some sort of plan to create it where the safety can't. Like, you have to have some sort of concept built in there, whether that's moving and shifting DK down the line even on that play and creating a little bit of motion to have him just run like a snag route, a slant, sit in the middle at 7 yards, something to create situations where you're getting DK away from that bracket coverage, which is something he struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into game changers here because we got a couple more things we got to touch on before we wrap up this show. So who are your game changer picks? Offense first, then defense, Ryan.
Offense, man, we just talked about it, man. My game changer, if this guy gets a game ball, and I mentioned it last week. I said he's the same guy. DK Metcalf, game changer. You got to see it. Like, he needs to have a breakout game. And yeah, I know I talked about the run game, which is important. And if that gets going a little bit, that can definitely open it up. But I just got to see them take some shots. And Ryan Grubb figuring it out, how to get this guy open and get him the football, period. So I need to see DK Metcalf getting handed a game ball from Mike McDonald in that locker room. That's gonna, if that happens, it's a good chance that we'll be successful, man. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought about this one, and there's a couple of ones I could, like Leonard Williams is just man on a mission, and he's been playing amazing football. But I want to see Derek Hall being a game changer. Like, and I know he's been playing great, but just getting home a couple times. If he's getting a game ball in the locker room again, maybe a couple sacks. Like, it's gonna, because when we've seen him really dominate and just be effective, it's turned into turnovers as well. So those are my two game changers.
Okay, so for mine on offense, I'm gonna go K9. I think he's gonna play. I'm going to go K9. I want to see K9 in the receiving game as well as the running game, just being a weapon. Earlier this year, I said when K9 had his one game where he went off versus Atlanta, like he gives me LaDainian Tomlinson type vibes, the way he can impact a game. Let him be an impact. And I think if you do, and he has a good game, there's a good chance Seattle may win this game. Now, on the other side of the ball, I'm going Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
That dude has been playing so well. He just hasn't been getting on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
I want to see a Byron Murphy breakout game. If he goes and just wrecks shop on this, Vikings O-line, it would probably be the happiest I'd be standing there. I would, cheer my ass off for Byron Murphy to have, that type of game where he's finally like getting the stats that he kind of deserves after what he's been asked to do. So those are my two. Mookie's in here. Everyone get your comments in. Get your
guys, game changers. We want to hear you guys for, we got a few minutes left. Throw out your game changers.
So here we go.
Game changers.
I like this. Charles Cross and Boy Mafe. Seahawks have no chance if Cross can at least be competent against Greener. Yep. 100%. 100%. Charles Cross. That's another really good one.
Well, and he's got to show more. He's got to step up, right?
100%.
He didn't look good last week. He's been on the fence as far as like, there's no guarantee that you just lock this dude up. So again, here's a guy that's got to show, hey, he's worth a big contract as well. So and what better chance in this Sunday spotlight will be on him. And yeah, hey man, Boy Mafe, similar to my Derek Hall pick, just the other side of the ball, or the other side. So but yeah, get your edges going, and like to one of your first keys, got to get home on Sam, make him uncomfortable, just let the pressure pour. And like you said, when they just went after Kyler and Kyler didn't know what was happening, that's the defense we want to see. That's the defensive line we got to see here. Because Minnesota's a 12-2 team, man, like one of the best teams in the NFL. People sleep on the Vikings. And they're going to sleep on the Vikings even more coming in this year with Sam Darnold named the starter. So it's really just been recently we're now more eyes are on this team saying, okay, no, they're actually for real. Like we talked about Detroit Lions all year from week 1, right? And rightfully so. You weren't talking Minnesota Vikings. They drafted a rookie quarterback,
who then got hurt.
Kirk Cousins, got hurt. Kirk Cousins Achilles, and he was out the door at the end of the season. So your quarterback situation was in limbo. And then they signed Sam Darnold. Kind of, you're thinking that's an afterthought. Here they are, 12-2. Really unbelievable. And things are clicking. They got a great head coach, and they're for real. So if you have any chance, that's one of the biggest things. Got to get this guy off his game. So we'll see. But
let's go score prediction.
Let's go score predictions. Let's give me you going down there with some Viking fans. So that's going to kind of be even. That's going to be sort of a double whammy for you, right? Because you want the Hawks, you got to sit there. If they don't win, then you got to hear about it even more. But what do you got realistically? Taking your Seahawk hat off, and just what do you got here for a win? Who's winning and what the score is?
It kills me to say this. I'm going down there. Obviously, I want the Hawks to win, but not being fanboy here, I got a feeling that it's going to be 27-23 Vikings. I think the Vikings get a late touchdown. Seattle's up maybe 23-20, and somehow Sam Darnold's going to find either Addison or Jefferson, and they're going to score a touchdown, and they're going to go up 27-23, and that'll be the end of it. But I think you'll see a better Seahawk game than you did versus Green Bay, and give you more hope down the stretch that they'll be able to handle the Bears and the Rams.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough, right? But it's hard to pick the Hawks right now, man, especially how good Minnesota is, how good that NFC North is, and just our struggles on offense. That's really the biggest thing. Grubb in the offense really has to show us something. I mean, we can only go by what we're seeing and what we've seen. and the struggles they're having, it's hard to sit back and say, yeah, you know what, this 12-2 teams coming in our house, that, you know, we might be better off if we went into their house right now. So, you know, coming into our house just doesn't mean anything right now. So that really to me is off the table. It's a non-factor. So, but again, I'm in agreement with you. I don't have the Hawks winning this game. I have a little lower score though. I got the Vikings 24-16. I think our defense, I agree. I think we should get off to a better start, more prepared. You can't get worse than 14-0. So, I mean, they should get off to a better start, but I really think they will get off to a good start. And I think it's going to be one of those games, but I think in the end, Minnesota is just a better team. And I'd be surprised if this offense really does get rolling. Ryan Grubb's going to have to show me something, but, so there you go. I got him 24-16. I don't know how close it's going to be. I think Minnesota will pull away later. And unfortunately, I think we might tend to struggle a bit, just, you know, putting that offensive game together completely. But I really hope I'm wrong. I hope we come back and you're celebrating a win coming back from the game, and we can talk about how good the offense was. But yeah, guys, get your comments in even when we get off. You know, let us know some scores, because this is a big game, guys. This is still a huge game. You're talking about, listen, it's week to week. So we're sitting here throwing predictions out. We've been wrong before. If we do win this game, that puts us in a good spot. The Rams have a winnable game. It's going to come down. We still have a shot for the division.
We do.
So, and if we lose this game, we're still not out of it. It's going to make it a lot harder, but you know, it's still going to be an exciting finish to the season, and you know, we're keeping things positive because we do like the direction with some of the things that this team is showing. So so I'm excited, man. You know, we're excited every week watching the Hawks. You know, so it's
always good when your wife comments who's a Raiders fan that she hopes both team loses because she's coming down there with us. So that's always good. But let's do this. We got a giveaway that we're gonna do. So trivia giveaway, guys. So like Ryan said, get in the live comments. You know, get in the comments after the show's been posted on YouTube. So the question is on this giveaway, guys. 5 players from 2005 to 2016 that have both played for the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. There's 5 names I'm looking for. There's 5 offensive players. They're all on the offensive side of the ball. So if you guys have that, make sure you comment in here with those and we'll look back at it. Whoever gets those right will get either a Hawk Zone hat or t-shirt. And with that said, guys, go out, check out hawkzonerundown.com. We just dropped a bunch of new stuff. So we're really looking forward to that, guys, and you guys getting your Christmas shopping done on the website.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, awesome show. Great preview, guys. We appreciate everyone chiming in and throwing the comments in, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, hey, let's hope we come back next week and we're 9-6 and we just knocked the Vikings off. So, guys, throw the comments in, sub to the channel, like the video, share the video, all that stuff. We're gonna come back at you with the reaction to this Monday, guys.
Monday night.
Don't expect anything Sunday. So we'll be back Monday night, break it all down, and ready to rock. So that's it. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.